Hi, Brian. It's Greg Kihn calling.
Hey, man. Welcome back.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right. Now, on the phone, I have Greg Kihn. Yeah, that Greg Kihn. Jeopardy, breakout song. They don't write him like that anymore. He has a new album out called Rekindled. And I've listened to the album, Greg, and wow, I was impressed.
Well, thank you very much. I tell you, that was a labor of love. I remember back in the old days, we made albums back in the 80s, and it seemed like it was like going to the dentist. It was like pulling teeth. You know, we had to work on them for months and months. Now I went back into the studio. It's the new digital age, no analog stuff left. And I felt there was a real breeze. We went in there and had a lot of fun. It'd been 20 years since my last studio album. Is that unbelievable? 20 years.
You must be thrilled to be back in the music business after doing 18 years in radio like I.
Oh, geez. You know, first of all, I love radio. Don't get me wrong. I love talking to people. But, you know, when you're doing the morning show, forget it. You don't have a life. I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning, you know, jump in the shower and drive over to San Francisco, drive over the bridge. And, geez, after 18 years of that, it gets a little old. And it really wears you down because, you know, when the weekend rolls around, you don't want to go on the road. You don't want to fly to New York and play a gig. You just want to hang around in the house and basically be a slug. And it was really hard because, you know, for a long time, I just been used to not traveling. And now suddenly I got all this time on my hands, which is great. And I had the inclination and the great musician and a great opportunity to go into the studio. And it was easy.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir about the going to bed early, getting up early.
Oh, geez. You know, and how about your wife? You know, she's always the one that's like, you know, are you coming or are you going, honey?
Right. She's sitting there talking to you. You're on the couch. You fall asleep.
Oh, God, that's the worst. Did you hear me? You wake up to that. Did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? No, I just was dozing. Well, you know, I will say this. And you guys, you know, all the radio guys would agree with me. It's a wonderful job.
Oh, it is.
You're talking directly to people. There's really no downside except to getting up at 3 in the morning. That's the only really downside. But, you know, once you get used to it, it's part of your life. I tell you, as soon as I had the time, I just went rushing back into the studio. I couldn't wait to get in there and start cutting some new music.
So how'd you get the inspiration to put out some new music after a 20-year hiatus, Greg?
You know, I thought that was going to be hard too, but I started writing songs, and I wrote them all in about 3 weeks. You know, I really just sat down. Some of the songs, like The Life I Got and Big Pink Flamingos, just wrote themselves while we were in the studio. We were just messing around. Next thing I know, we got an arrangement going. And I said, hey, let's put this down on tape, you know, while we're here. And we did the whole album like that. You know, it's like, wow, it was suddenly there was nothing holding us back. It was a pleasure to be able to make albums the way they make them now. When I started off, it was 4-track machines. Everybody was 4-track, which was not that bad, but the Beatles cut Sgt. Pepper on a 4-track. So you figure, okay, it's physically possible. But I remember the next album I came in there, and the guys had already purchased these 16-track Ampex machines. They were huge, big, giant things like the size of refrigerators, you know. And I remember telling the guy, the engineer, going, hey, we'll never use 16. We'll never use that many actual tracks. I had no idea that you could make 16 tracks of drums and still looking for more.
Speaking of Big Pink Flamingo, man, I think that's my favorite song on the new album. That is great.
Yeah, that was a fun one to write. I had an idea for a song, and I was talking to my son about it. I said, can you write like a like a riff kind of song, like Oh Well by Fleetwood Mac or Black Dog by Led Zeppelin? Something where you play for a second, then you stop, and then you do a cappella part, you sing it, and then you jump back into it. He goes, yeah, no problem, Dad. So he comes in the next day. The very next day, and he's got this great guitar riff. It would become Pink Flamingos a few more minutes. And he started playing it out of the clear blue sky. I started singing Big Pink Flamingos. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it went. It was like I channeled it. It was floating around in the air, and I really basically just wrote it down. When that happens, you're just dealing with the raw song. You know it's going to be a good one. So I had a lot of time putting that one together. I didn't feel like I'd been out of the studio and out of touch for 20 years. God, it was good. I tell you, hearing my voice back for the first time in 20 years, it blew my mind. Wow, my voice has changed a little in 20 years. I'm not a soprano anymore.
And your son, Rye, is the lead guitarist for the band. That's for people who don't know. Oh, man, he is really impressing me. Every song on the album has great guitar riffs in it. Just amazing.
Yeah. He's got big shoes to fill because we've always had great guitar players in the Greg Kihn band over the years. We've had Jimmy Lyon and Dave Carpenter, and Joe Satriani is another one. And when Joe was in the band, which was like around 86, 87, he used to give guitar lessons. My son started out with guitar lessons with Joe Satriani when he was like maybe 16 years old. He went from Joe Satriani to Berklee School of Music, and then he graduated from Cal Arts in L.A. He's a jazz guitar major. So not only can he play like the wind, but he can actually read music. He's the first guy in my family that could actually read music.
And The Life I Got is another great track on the Rekindled album.
Well, you know, that really was an autobiographical song. And I remember sitting down with the guys, and I was just kicking around lyric ideas. I had other words that worked on the chorus of that song, but I kept on coming back to the chorus, and it was something that I wanted to sing. I just wasn't connecting with it. And then at the very end of the session, we were all packing up. We're closing down the lights. We're going home for the day. And I walk out the door, and I go, wait a minute. The Life I Got. That's it. Wait a minute, guys. We're going back into the studio. So we back in there, turn the light back on. I started singing the new lyrics. They worked beautifully, and it was perfect. But, you know, like that was almost lost to the I Gotta Get Home gods, you know what I mean?
Right. This album, I can't emphasize it enough, Max listeners. You have to pick it up. From cut 1 to cut 11, it's just awesome all the way through. I also love Trained Monkey, The Brain Police. Were you like trying to get into Cheap Trick's mind there or what?
Yeah, you know, actually, Rick Nielsen's a good buddy of mine. Also, over the years, we played many, many gigs with Cheap Trick. And I had that idea for The Brain Police. But I also had the background vocal that went, police, 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 police. So we're doing it at a sound check, and Nielsen says, come over here, Greg. And he comes and goes, hey, that's a little close to our song. And I said, yeah, maybe you're right. I'll have to change that. So I changed it, and now whatever it is, it's working great. We got the blessing of all the guys in Cheap Trick, who, by the way, are now in the Hall of Fame. So yes. I guess we're all perennial Hall of Famers at some point.
Now, I hear you're in the works already on a new album.
Yeah, I've already got 3 cuts done for the next album. We've been working on it the last couple of weeks here in California. We just got back from a tour. Got back, took a couple days off, went in the studio, started working on the album, and then there's Christmas, so we got a couple of weeks off for Christmas. Then we hit the road again the first week of January, so we'll be getting to the East Coast and probably working our way up the East Coast until we get to New York or Boston. That'll be a real interesting gig. I haven't been back lately, and it'll probably be horrible weather, too. It'll probably be snowing, too, right?
Probably. I hate snow, but that's all right.
We're used to that.
Yeah. So when are you coming to Central Indiana, man? We want to see you.
Yeah, I really want to, man, and it's only a matter of time before we give to everybody. As a matter of fact, when I leave here, we got a breakfast meeting with our booking agent, and we're going to tell them all the places that we want to play in the next couple of months, and hopefully it's going to turn it into reality, because I love being on the road. When I was young and the breakup song and Jeopardy were all out there and everything, it was kind of a hassle to go on the road. Nowadays, it's like summer camp. I can't wait to go on the road. It's a lot of fun. Plus, I'm with my son. How tough can that be?
Right. Who else is in the Greg Kihn band now?
Well, we got Robert Perry on bass, and Robert is a replacement for Steve Wright, who was my songwriting partner for many years. And Robert also produces the Greg Kihn band. He plays bass, he plays keyboard, he plays guitar, he plays it all. And then we've got a new drummer, a guy by the name of Dave Lauser, who comes to me from the Sammy Hagar band. And Sammy told me, he says, look, you can use my guy for a year and a half. I'm too busy to even think about doing any more projects. It's a classic 4-piece band, just like the Beatles. 2 guitars, bass, and drums.
Sounds like some heavy hitters, man. Sounds great. Going back to Jeopardy, that song was a huge hit, man, and MTV probably had a big role in that, right?
Yeah, the beauty of MTV was that was the first year that they were really strong. I think that was like 83 or 84. I remember we put out the Jeopardy video. It was the first concept video. It was like, up to that point, mostly they were fake live videos or chicks running down alleys with lingerie on and stuff. They didn't really make a lot of sense. Then we came along. We did the first actual concept video, which had a plot line. It was like a little mini movie. And the movie that we did was Night of the Living Dead. A lot like my second wedding, by the way. And we did that it's a church in San Francisco. It's a very famous church by the name of Mission Dolores Church, which is the same church from the Dirty Harry movies. Remember the Dirty Harry movies? He was going into a church and somebody was shooting from the roof at him.
Yes.
That was the same church. And I got to tell you, I'm going to hell for all the stuff I did in that church after hours. Oh, my God. We were horrible. You're never not supposed to do that stuff in a church. That was back during our heavy-duty partying days. And, you couldn't put the band alone in a video shoot for 24 hours straight and not expect them to get whacked out of their brains, which is what we did. And, it took twice as much. Well, you know what? In the end, we were watching that video. Everybody loved it. It got tons of airplay. And then just when I was finished with it, here comes Weird Al. And Weird Al's got a version of I Lost on Jeopardy, the game show. And I went down and did a cameo appearance in Weird Al's video, and that was a lot of fun.
Do you still have phobias about weddings, Greg?
No, actually, I got over that. Thank God. The first two were really shaky, I'll tell you. But the third one's a charm, my friend.
Greg, it's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to hit on that we haven't covered yet?
Well, I just want to tell all the fans that it's one-stop shopping at the GregKihn.com website. Just pop over there. We got everything from Greg Kihn. We got the entire catalog of albums re-released, so you can buy any of my albums, including the new one, Rekindled. I got 6 of my novels out there published, and you can buy them, and lots of other, let's call it just swag. But it's all one-stop shopping, and go over to GregKihn.com and check it out.
All right, Greg, it's been a pleasure, brother.
Hey, my pleasure.
Come to Central Indiana, man. We want to see you.
All right. Hey, man. Brian, let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Talk to you later, my friend.
Thanks, Greg. Bye.
Bye-bye.